This is
Beyond surreal.
beyond surreal.
Jimmy Jazz next.
What do you think?
Okay, we're ready for our first white out.
I like it because I like the headgear. I think we look great with this headgear on.
Look at my stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Give me my stuff. Paragon does Jimmy Mixer.
I think that if everyone in the country knew about it, this dry lake wouldn't be big enough for everyone. So basically, anyone that would be curious about it, I urge you to strongly come out here one time, see this event, and I guarantee you, you'll be back the following year.
Show Jimmy Jazz.
Yeah.
This is all coming out of our team of about 20 or whatever. We're about 12 then. We'll show you a few seconds of one more piece and then
It stopped. There we go. Just go ahead and play it.
Sure.
This Las Vegas, I call it the non-entertainment capital of the world. How many times can you see a magician or somebody come out of the sky or water going up the air and something shooting and a boat sinking? How many times can you with a car on the rock or dock? You would think in this vast Las Vegas that there would be a better appreciation of the arts in this city. I feel like an alien. You know, I come over here and I walk in there, smoking, and we see a jazz artist. Jazz, what's that? I've done many recordings with Streisand, with Elvis, with Sinatra, Victor Moon, Sammy Davis, a dear friend. I originally came in '57 and went into the El Rancho Vegas, the original El Rancho Vegas, across from the Sahara Hotel. And we were there till 1960, and of course we got burned out. Jimmy the Weasel burned the place down, and I lost all my instruments. And from there, I went over to the Sands Hotel and became, again, part of the Sands Hotel main showroom band. I stayed all the years with the Rat Pack. It was Jerry Lewis, Dean Martin, everybody was at the Sands. So all those years I was in the cream job in the world from 1960 to 68 or 8.5, and I was doing what they call tripling. I was playing 3 jobs a day. I was a maniac, but that's what I love to do, play, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I mean, you thought you died and went to heaven. What happened to jazz? I mean, we can bring in Dizzy Gillespie from the grave. Are they going to come? We wish they would come. We want jazz in this town. I still live with it.
Switch over.
Sure. We do breaking news too, it's just not nearly as fun, so we didn't show any. So, you know, we keep talking about we're doing a lot of websites, and what was really important for us before we launched the Sun is we wanted to build one platform and then have all of our sites sit on it. And I think we're doing that. Our platform allows for convergence in that we take articles from one pub, it can live seamlessly in another. If there's a video at the Sun that the Weekly wants to use or one of the smaller pubs wants to use, it's all in one place, and the web editors at all the publications can pick and choose. So we're going to give you a preview of something that's going to launch at the end of May. So same platform, but this is a hell of a lot more fun. The Las Vegas Weekly is, you know, it's gossip, it's entertainment news, it's art, it's our cover this week is of a lingerie coffee shop. If you pull up, that's all they wear. We're a different kind of town, and this weekly really reflects that. It's really playful. It's a little racy. So the features that you're seeing are a lot of the same on a data and a technology level that you saw at the Sun. It's just a little sexier. So the front page and the dining page. We keep talking about evergreen content. We feel like it's really important because one of the things we want to do is establish a lot of credibility. So at the Weekly, instead of just having our news articles, we want to be the definitive restaurant guide. We want to be the definitive DJ guide, the definitive band guide, the definitive strip club guide. So we have, again, a legion of interns, $10 an hour, and for months, all they've done is call bands, call restaurants, call bars, call strip clubs, and they're populating Google Doc after Google Doc after Google Doc with all this information. And then our systems guys are importing it all into the DB. And the way that the calendar events talk to one another, like the places and the events, so well the places and the bands. So if there's a bar and a band's playing, it'll automatically make that connection. So all that is in development now. So an article page, again, same format. You know, it's a template. We can do the same stuff on the side. We can do links. We can do photos, video. Everything is the same technology, just rethemed. We have nightlife is big, so we'll have stringers who go out and they take photos. So you get a business card, and the next day you go to our website and you find your photos. It's a lot of page clicks, and so we care about it a lot.
Is that monetized?
It will be. On the current website, it's not. And the current website is horrible. Any of the Greenspun websites are pretty bad. That's why our team was brought in. Again, everything, whenever we use the word guide, we really mean evergreen. So you can search through the clubs and restaurants, bands, DJs. We're doing a pool one because pool season apparently is really big. Every weekend is spring break in Las Vegas. So we've gone through what we've built in the last 6 months or so. And a lot of what you just saw is this. I don't know if this means anything to you, if you even care about it, but these are the tools that we live by every day. It's not exhaustive by any stretch, but we can't do what we do without these tools. I think the more important part, though, is this is how it breaks down. Our team is structured roughly into 3 groups with a lot of overlap. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anyone on our team does one thing.
Yeah. I think you and I kind of sit in all 3 groups.
Yeah, we sit in all 3.
A good chunk of our team sits in all 3 groups. So a lot of us sort of exist in this area.
Right. I mean, with the exception of a couple programmers, almost no one sits in a circle by themselves. Yes?
I have a question. How close is the web team to the newsroom? Are you guys in the same building? Because I know that's a big issue
Right.
for a lot of news
So,
places. They're so separate from the web.
Right. So the web team and the location relative to us, we all sit in the same room. So there is no web team across the street. The system administrators, the guy who have comp sci degrees and who were software engineers before they went to the newspaper, they sit about 12 feet from me. When we have a meeting about an editorial project, the software engineers come. And I don't know if any of our software, almost all of our software engineers have some type of newspaper experience. A lot of them came from the company that did the New York Times search engine. A lot of them came from the Lawrence Journal World, which is the guys who developed. Actually, that's not true. The next paper that used the technology. So they understand editorial demands the way I think a traditional IT shop wouldn't. We can't say, you know what, a story's breaking right now and have IT say, well, 3 weeks to spec it out, 5 weeks to program it, and 2 weeks for Q&A. I need it tomorrow. So these guys understand that, and they don't care if they're a little sloppy. They don't care if they break the servers. They'll get the story up. So, you know, when we decided we wanted to do the real-time results for the caucus, they understood that's what they had to do. So they wrote a script. It probably wasn't very pretty. People would probably make fun of it if they saw it, but it worked, and it was live the next day, and nothing broke.
And also long-term, I mean, just from workflow as a journalist, as an editor, you know, working with these programmers is the best thing that you could possibly have, because they'll understand that I just need to type in a headline and put in a story. Can you make that easy for me to do on the back end?
Right.
You know, and they'll respond to that. They'll prioritize
And what's good about our team, and a lot of the interactives and stuff that you saw were Zach and I, and you know, we sit somewhere right here, but in many ways we speak the same language. So they understand, we have common language to speak to one another. I'll say, I need this, we'll exchange it via XML. I don't care what you do on your end, they don't care what I do on my end. So as long as we have enough common knowledge that we can talk to one another, and we do. And that's all we have. Any questions?
Any questions?
I had a couple of questions about the weekly publication that you're going to launch soon. Does that content change? It's a weekly, so does it change?
Right. You know, we didn't.
So the question is, does the weekly content change quite frequently?
There's a sign behind everyone that says, please repeat the question. Yeah, we didn't like the name Las Vegas Weekly. It works really well in print. It doesn't sound like a very good website. It does change. And the screenshots, I'll bring it back up. The weekly content. So what you see, oops. Again, I never used PowerPoint until today. What you see here, you don't see the cover story. I mean, you can get to it. It'll flip through on the top of the website. But what's really interesting, Robin Leach works for us. So Robin Leach's blog will stay fresh every day. We have a writer, Richard Albowitz, who works for us, the LA Times, and I believe he writes for Rolling Stone. And he dates porn stars and strippers, and that's his thing. So he writes for us. We have guys who are writing about food, and they're writing about entertainment, and they all contribute to what will be this aggregate blog. So all day long, this content will stay fresh. This date book will stay fresh. It's editorially selected. These are the big things happening right now for food or nightlife or whatever. We have this right now. So our web editor, Sarah, will have to be responsible for making sure that that is always talking about something that's happening right now, whether it be news or an event that you need to be at, or Britney Spears is at a club. Well, right now, you know it. So you're right, weekly content doesn't work very well for the web. We're trying to leverage the brand and make a new experience. We're not shovelware. We're taking that content and then adding.
So how are you staffing that? I mean, it sounds pretty labor intensive.
So the staffing of that is, as we build these websites, we're hiring media or like new media journalists to go along with it. So it's not just our team building technology and going to the publications and saying, here. I mean, our media company realizes that in order to make money, in order for these things to be successful, they have to have the manpower to do it. So they're making a long-term investment in new media journalists.
So they must have a plan to monetize it.
Yes. Yeah.
What else would that is?
I can't tell you the specifics of what that is, but we aren't projected to make money for a couple of years.
A couple of years.
Yeah.
What do you know about traffic since you've improved it?
I can't give you specific numbers, but I'll tell you my favorite stat about the Las Vegas Sun website. Do you guys know what a bounce rate is?
A what?
A bounce rate? A bounce rate is if you go to a website and you look at exactly one page, that's considered a bounce. So if you come in sideways, you don't look at anything else, that's a bounce. Before January 10th, our bounce rate was in the high 70s.
70%.
70-some%, yeah.
So 70% of people were coming to the site, viewing one piece of content and then leaving, or closing their browser, or just not staying on the site for other content.
Right. Now that bounce rate is 10.4%, or it was last week. 10.4, give or take. It goes up and down. So
that means a lot of things. I mean, just to translate, that means that if we get links from YouTube, new viewers coming in, they'll come in and they'll stay in. They're not just seeing that one link and then going off. We might have a new viewer because the bounce rate is so low that a lot of people are staying for more content, which means they're interested.
Right.
And so that number is really encouraging to us.
So this means your time on site's really high then?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another number that's gone up drastically. If you look at time on site for all of our videos, most of them are watched to completion, including the 4 and 5 minute videos. So I think numbers like that, not the actual physical numbers, is what we can't really talk about, although those are encouraging too.
Yeah, they're going way up. I mean,
but these other little indicators of how people are receiving the content and how we are doing as storytellers and how we're doing, with our interactive multimedia, all these numbers across the board are all looking great.
and the big drivers for the site, a lot of them are the blogs. John Ralston, again, he writes these 1 minute alerts. I mean, these like 1 sentence or 2 sentence alerts. And all of a sudden, that'll be the top story on our website. Because he's so controversial. In 2 sentences, he can drive a lot of traffic. Mike Smith drives a lot of traffic. When he did the fill in the blank blog, it was our most read for 2 or 3 days. So there's a lot of, our website's changing and our audience are changing and our journalists are changing. And I think we're seeing that in our numbers.
We also see a lot of blog interaction. We had one video, kind of like the Mike Smith thing. We had a video that ran a couple weeks previous, and then all of a sudden one day we got a surge of traffic. A couple political blogs picked up on a piece we did on Qcenich, and it was our #1 hit on the multimedia side for, I think, almost a month after that. So it really got that community, that niche community, got engaged. And because our bounce rate is so good, we got a lot of new viewers that were looking at other stuff too.
And you might have noticed, commenting on our site isn't limited to stories. You can comment on almost anything. You can comment on photos, slideshows, the Thudio things we talk about, and video. So a lot of times discussion takes place right there on our website, even if people come in sideways to see that video. Yes?
Spend a little bit more time with that people actually looking, staying, and watching the video for its duration. I'm familiar with stats that kind of say, most people tune out of the video after 45 seconds.
Right. You want to talk about the analytics on that one?
So you're wanting to know more about the time on site, and the average video view time is about 45 seconds. That is true. Typically, you have to think about a majority of video out there is on YouTube. It's not real storytelling. And if it is, a lot of times it is amateur. There is a certain formula to do video for the internet, and we're well aware of that. And I think that we always have a hook at the beginning, and we keep them engaged. We kind of, I show my videos around the office and kind of say, when did you start to fall asleep? And I'll put something, either cut that part out, put something to jazz it up at that point, and really try and keep people in for the whole story, because I think there's a payoff. And our stats are, most people are viewing it to the very end. I don't know about our podcast stats, but it's really encouraging. We certainly don't have a 45-second average. I think we're on the order of 4 minutes. So.
Have you found an optimum time for that link that has been most successful as far as continuing doing all the way through? It's all story-based, but are you seeing as much success with the long-form storytelling for video?
So the question is, have we found a sweet spot for video length? I firmly believe in storytelling in video, and I think a story takes as long as a story takes. That being said, you always trim the fat. It's always good to get it shorter if it can be shorter. I don't know if there's a magical number, like Star Wars set that a movie length should be about 2 hours or somewhere around that range, and most movies are in that range. Online video is generally under a minute if it doesn't have a strong narrative. I think 2 minutes for anything that has a decent narrative, but I frequently make 5-minute videos, 6-minute videos. I've never made anything over 10 minutes. Right. So that's a pretty big range. I think it's really dependent on the content, and like I said, our numbers reflect that people are kind of responding to that.
And we've only been up for about 9 weeks, so
yeah. So our sample is kind of compressed, but
yes.
You mentioned it's not as much fun, but the breaking news that you guys did.
Yes.
Roof caught fire at the resort made a lot of us think you said it, because you had so many assets up within 12 hours.
Right.
You clearly have
Right. So the question is, do we have some kind of system to adding assets to breaking news? There's a big secret about what we did that day. Remember I talked about the history project? Remember we talked about the history project? We'd already written a story about fires in Las Vegas. Just so happened a fire broke out, so we just repurposed it really, really quickly. All the related links, all the photos, we had an army of interns in the morgue immediately typing in all those stories, the ones that hadn't already been typed in. We had interns and staff members running out to the field to get the content, the videos, and the photos, the ones that weren't being emailed back to us.
And we had our lead web designer restructuring the front page just, I mean, every 30 minutes. If we got new photos in, put photo front slot, front page, you know, you saw how we can change around our front page quite drastically depending on content. So that's what we were doing every half hour.
Right.
Unfortunately, we didn't take screenshots all day of that because we were too busy covering the fire. Right. It would be great to show how often it did change.
Is there any enduring lessons that you learned from that to how to, other than flood the zone, than on how to deal with big breaking news?
Some workflow things, but I think it really showed how valuable some of our evergreen content is, like the history project. I mean, that these things are worth putting time into. It's worth getting some interns and building up this asset. I mean, we've told stories for, I don't know, how many years has the paper been around?
50-some.
I mean, all this stuff is in the morgue. These are all things that people want to know and are still interested in. There's no other way to see that content unless you go to library archives or anything like that. But, I mean, the history of the paper can be a great asset.
Another thing that was really important that day is that we had just put this website up, and so we had these tools that, like we said earlier, our video, you don't have to build a special Flash thing. Our slideshows, you don't have to open up Flash. You don't have to use it. All you have to do is go to a web page, upload photos, and keep moving. So it allowed the photographers, or the photo editor in that case, to do this himself really, really quickly without draining our staff of it. So our staff could focus on the research and making sure the front page stayed updated really frequently. And I think that was probably the most important thing in terms of us keeping it fresh, is that we were able to leverage everyone in the newsroom to do their little piece.
Division of labor.
Yes. Yeah. A couple of the Metro editors were the ones updating the blogs and the stories all day. Had nothing to do with our team.
And because we were freed up, we had a couple videographers that were actually free to go out and do a longer form story to run the next day, you know, and start asking the firemen, and I mean, they had the time to do that and to build a more traditional analytical story that we tend to run. So we were running breaking news. Our team wasn't, you know, clogged up with having to put all these photos up and everything.
Right. In terms of video, I think we ran 4 complete stories, but one kept updating all day, like the breaking story. As we got footage in, that story on the website, we kept overriding the old version.
Yeah, so there was only one that didn't have a traditional narrative to it. The rest of the videos had, I mean, they're standalone pieces. So.
How about the main bar story, which was really well written that day too, and I guess it's print the next day. Did somebody focus on that, do you think? Was that their
Which story are you referring to?
Narrative text that came out of that.
There were probably 20 main narratives that day. I mean, we were using like the blog system, so we had a blog post going up every couple minutes, and I think that eventually became the backbone of what the story was going to be.
Well, somebody wrote it because it was written. I mean, I'm familiar with trying to take a blog and make a narrative story out of it.
I think the piece, I think you're referring to the second day story, and one of our editors compiled all the reporting from the entire newsroom. It was a really big day. Probably half our newsroom was out, and the editor wrote the
and then
the
a
second
couple
day
other
story.
reporters kind of tackled it from other angles too. I mean, so it was pretty much the whole staff was on that, I think. I mean, a couple people were doing their typical jobs. But.
Who was doing the editing?
The like copy editing, or that was our editors, our Metro editors, our desk editors.
And one other question: who is paying attention to when you're trying to reach all these new markets? Paying attention to diversity in terms of either age groups or different populations that you might be trying to reach.
Right. The question is, who's paying attention to as we try to reach all these audience and the diversity of it? We, like Zach has said, we're like the shotgun approach. We're trying to get to people all over the place. So if that's in the print edition, that's in the print edition. If it's on your iPhone, it's on your iPhone. And if it's on your TV, it's on your TV. If that means you're not getting it from the Sun, but you're getting it from Las Vegas Weekly, that means you're getting your news from Las Vegas Weekly. So the Weekly will have, you know, regular headlines too. So we're trying to get at our audience multiple ways by leveraging all of our assets. Does that answer your question?
No, because I'm talking about really turning it around in terms of if there are specific groups marketplace are not being served, who is sort of paying attention to creating content for those groups, like maybe senior citizens, maybe kids under 12?
Right. Again, I think that really goes to all of our publications. So if it's senior citizens and kids, it's probably our weeklies. Those are the ones in the community. That's more hyperlocal. This effort is valley-wide. So we're not saying this is only for this community or this age group. And and to some degree, it's really dependent on what the newsroom is doing. And I talked a little bit about how we have a different type of newspaper, and that's because we've been in this JOA. So the things we've excelled at have been politics, opinion. So that's a lot of the basis of our coverage. But as we grow across all of our properties, we hope to hit a lot more.
But we don't survey our readers or anything to say, tell us how old you are. I mean, we don't put up any walls of that sort, so we don't track data
We, the
of
media
that
team,
type.
the newspaper does.
But then again, we get a lot of feedback and comments from a wide range of people who give us indications of who they are, who's actually reading. I think the first day we launched, we got a phone call that went to Dave from, I think the person was 78 years old, who was mad because the page took a little longer to load that day. I mean, people are letting us know right away if we're not getting to them in the right way, or they have offense to the story. You'd be surprised how many comments and what type of comments we get. And all of them are good, great feedback for us. And I don't think that's something you could have got as quickly or as accessible on the print side. So we're getting a lot of good feedback that helps us do better journalism, I think.
You're doing a lot of great things, you're throwing a lot of things out there. I'm wondering if you have a process for deciding what you build, the features you're going to add, you have a process for building things?
The question is, do we have a process by which we decide what features we're going to build? I said earlier that this is based off the Ellington CMS, so a lot of the base functionality was already there. Those were features that we really wanted. The articles are really well developed in that system. What we call inlines, the little sidebars of the stories, are really well developed. But things like the rich media, those are things that we decided that we thought, because again, this was the publisher saying, you guys build what you think you should build. And so we cared about rich media, we cared about video, we cared about audio. So that dictated the next couple months or so of development. And now as we keep evolving this platform, it's the development of it is tailored to the publication. So we're adding a lot of functionality to allow the weekly, which will be probably our most advanced site, to do all the fun stuff it needs to do. You know, you're at a club and you know that Brittany's there. How do you get it on our website? Well, that's a feature that doesn't exist, so we know we have to program it. That is probably the driving force. What do we want to build? And then we prioritize the order in which we have to build them to hit all of our publication dates across our pubs.
But more story-driven stuff occurs in these budget meetings that Dave Toplicar, our managing editor, goes to. You know, if we have a story on, I don't know, let's say water is a big issue. If, you know, we might think that a map showing all these locations of where all the lakes are, where the water sources are, that might be something good, so we'll build something for it. And usually those things aren't hard to build,
right,
and those can be one-offs. But like Josh said, we'd like to, if we're going to put time into building a tool, we want it to be reusable. So we think, what do journalists want to tell? What would be an easy way for them to get data such as, you know, campaign finance, where is money contributions coming from? That's something that we can build, and we can also kind of use that same idea for graphing other things. So we'll build a graphing tool. And so we kind of build a set of tools that we can reuse so that our time isn't used for just a one-off sort of thing. So we like to think, you know, over time and reusability.
Right. In that case, it took Zach 3 days to do the first graph. It took me about 12 hours to do the second because I used his code base and extended it.
And each time we do it, it gets shorter and shorter. So we build in all the features we'll need for almost everything eventually.
Yes.
2 questions about the Burning Man stuff. I guess it's sort of resource questions. I assume that the print edition wanted some still pictures from Burning Man. Did you also provide those, or was that somebody else's job?
We had the traditional print still photographer out there. This is before our website launched, so there wasn't a whole lot of convergence at that point. We were still working on that. She shot most of the stuff for print. It went up to Flickr and, you know, came into the website also. And we had a couple writers on there.
Did you do all the audio for those as well?
Yeah, I did all the video, audio, and some stills. Yeah.
But we do have reporters and photographers bringing us audio now and doing their own audio narratives.
send this ready, I missed it, I'm sorry, but what's your workflow for doing all this promotion and getting stuff out to Flickr or to YouTube? Is it the originating journalist, is it her responsibility to take care of those channels, or do you have, a person who's responsible for that, or is it handled differently different times? I mean, it seems like you're very consistent with everything you do gets out to multiple channels.
So the question is, what is the workflow to distribute our content through all these different channels, such as YouTube?
Was it the workflow or the marketing of what we're doing?
Is it, yeah,
Well, I just call that marketing. I mean, all that. No, I mean putting it out to those channels.
the distribution.
You're promoting your
Okay. So how's our workflow for getting out to these distribution channels? I mean, when someone's editing a video, at the end of the day, they're tired. They've been working in the editing room, or at their station for a long time. So the last thing we want to do is have them fill out 20 million things and put up this. So we design our workflow to be as minimalist as possible. And for our video, it comes down to a point where they drop the final outputted video on a server, and everything else just kind of magically happens. It gets encoded, uploaded to the server. Then all they have to do is just jump into Ellington and put the data with it. We also then have I believe, is it an intern that actually puts it up to YouTube either that day or the following day. It depends on when the video was done. If it was done at midnight, they're not in there. But they know every day to check for new videos in the system. They'll put them up. Flickr is sort of a case-by-case basis. If we're going to build a group for a special event, that will change with the weekly. But a lot of these things, we try and make it as simple as possible. And it's not because people don't know how to do it. It's just, it's like ergonomics. You don't want to do a whole lot of repetitive motion stuff and end up getting carpal tunnel, when you don't have to. It's just unnecessary. When you could spend a couple hours building a system that makes it drag and drop, done. So. And
I keep joking about interns, but in all honesty, we love our interns. We pay them $400 a week, and they do a lot of this stuff for us. They get to do their own original storytelling on occasion, but when we need a lot of repetitive tasks done.
How many interns do you?
We're growing those guys too. We have three or so full-time and a lot of part-time, and as we keep adding publications, we have to support those publications, so they each get dedicated interns.
So interns are in addition to the 20?
Yes.
And before you added that 20, which you said will become 40 at some point?
Ish, yeah.
How many FTEs were there?
It was a Perl script.
No. How many, print FTEs were there?
Our paper's been changing a lot. I don't know, what do we have, 40 or so traditional reporters?
Yes.
So
our newsroom is changing really, really quickly.
it sounds like, already 50% increase.
Right, but our talent's being spread across about 12 websites, not one.
Right. I think in the Sun, there's a very small team out of all those. And a lot of these are still kind of building infrastructure and things of that nature. So people who are doing daily reporting for the new media that we've hired is probably only 4 or 5.
Right.
Okay. We're going to take one more question, Mary Carr, and then we're going to wrap up the webcast.
Before the launch, did you provide also the training for the reporters, photographers that you hired, and what kind of training did you provide?
The question is, do we provide training for the reporters and photographers that we hired? We didn't hire any of the traditionally print. We used the traditionally print and reporters and photographers participate on our website a lot. And for web stuff we provided, or for print stuff, we provided a minimal amount of training on how to use the CMS, some basics like we have the option of running alternate heads from location to location. That's a lot of copy desk stuff too. So there was a little bit of that, but there was a lot of training for the photogs, and Zach did most of that.
Yeah, and a lot of it's still ongoing, but we did a Final Cut workshop, very brief, just kind of an introduction. Usually try and give them, if they have time, give them projects that we kind of set our quality standards pretty high, so they might do a lot of projects that don't actually see the light of day. But it's good because they're learning and it's content they shot for the print side. Let's have them try and build a narrative. If it's worth doing, then one of us producers will step in and we'll build it out, but usually we have a lot on our plates too. So that's how it started out. Now we have people that are actually building narratives. They don't need any oversight or any training. They might have an oddball question once in a while or something crashed, But it was kind of gradual, you know, over time. When I say over time, it was over the course of a month, maybe. So it wasn't like, sit down, here's how you do it, start doing it tomorrow. It wasn't anything like that.
And we're only 10 weeks in or so. I'm sure we'll revisit and keep refining.